Imagine opening your laptop and an invisible junior teammate has already read your files, drafted your emails, and built a weekly report. Beat.
Yeah.
It doesn't just chat, it acts.
Yeah, it completely changes the entire paradigm of how we interact with software. You stop typing questions into a void and you start delegating actual workflows to a system that, well, it operates independently.
Right. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We are exploring a comprehensive guide today on a massive shift in how we handle digital chores. We are unpacking Claude Cowork.
Which is this wild desktop agent that launched back in January 2026.
Exactly. 2-sec silence.
Yeah.
Think about your daily friction. The copying, the pasting, the endless tab switching.
Oh, it's exhausting.
It really is.
Yeah.
So we are going to walk through 5 actionable use cases today to eliminate that friction. We'll move from basic integrations to giving your AI persistent memory, and then we'll end with building interactive business dashboards.
The leap here from chatbot to agent is just monumental. I mean, Cowork actually sits on your desktop right alongside your standard browser windows. It executes commands, it renames files locally, it runs schedules while you sleep. It's doing the actual work.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because for an AI to do actual work, it has to physically touch your tools.
Right.
Our source material details 3 interaction methods. Option A relies on connectors, or MCPs. Option B uses local files. And option C is computer use, which basically means screen control.
And the hierarchy here matters tremendously. You always want option A first. MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. Think of an MCP as a direct digital bridge between 2 apps.
Okay.
When Claude uses an MCP for Gmail, it communicates directly with the platform.
And it does this through an API, right?
Yeah.
An API is basically a backdoor for data to flow between apps.
That hits the core of it perfectly. Yeah, it bypasses the visual interface completely. It processes raw data in milliseconds.
Wow.
And option B is also incredibly fast. It simply reads the local files you drop in a dedicated desktop folder. But option C, screen control, that is your absolute last resort.
So connectors are like plugging directly into the matrix. Screen control is like watching a ghost physically drag a mouse across a desk.
Yeah, exactly. And that ghost is working incredibly hard, too. I mean, the visual spectacle of the cursor moving by itself is cool at first.
Right, it feels like magic.
It does.
Yeah.
But a task taking 3 seconds via an API might take 20 minutes via screen control.
Why is taking screenshots so computationally expensive for the AI?
Well, because the AI isn't reading text anymore, it's solving a complex vision puzzle repeatedly.
I see.
Without a backdoor connection, Claude has to take a high-resolution screenshot of your entire desktop. It analyzes that image to find the exact pixel coordinates of a specific button. It simulates the mouse movement, it clicks. Then it must take another screenshot just to verify the screen actually changed.
So it has to visually confirm every single microaction it takes.
Exactly. And that processing drain is the exact reason integrations are the holy grail here.
Yeah.
You want to avoid the vision tax at all costs. Every scroll requires a fresh screenshot analysis loop.
So every single mouse click requires a brand new visual decision.
Got it. Yeah, the compute overhead is massive.
Beat. But the digital world is messy. Not everything has a backdoor. So what happens when there isn't a connector available? That brings us to our second use case, the fallback mechanism.
Right, when the ghost takes the mouse.
Exactly.
Sometimes the back door is simply locked. As of early 2026, this computer control fallback is macOS only. Windows support is rolling out later this year.
Good to know.
But you don't just get this capability out of the box. You have to explicitly flip a switch in the general settings.
There's a critical toggle in those settings, right? The unhide apps toggle.
Yes, you absolutely must keep that checked. When the AI finishes a screen control task, it leaves the windows open and visible. You need the transparency of seeing exactly what it opened.
Because trust is earned, not given.
Exactly. Seeing the aftermath builds that trust.
Let's ground this with a real scenario, the mobile dispatch example from the guide, because this kind of blurs the line between the phone in your pocket and your desktop at home.
Oh, this specific feature completely changes remote work. Say you are grabbing coffee. You only have your phone. Your laptop is open on your desk, miles away.
Yeah.
You open the dispatch feature on your mobile app. It links directly to your desktop Cowork session.
You just give it a voice command right there in line.
Yeah. You hold the button and speak naturally. You say, go to Canva, open the second folder, find the Campaign Visual 03 design, take a screenshot of the product mockup.
Wow.
Then open Gmail, draft a message to the marketing team describing the visual, and attach the screenshot.
2-sec silence. I still wrestle with trusting automation in my inbox. The anxiety of sending the wrong thing to a client is real.
Oh, I totally get that. And the guide addresses that fear head on with a non-negotiable safety rule. Never let the agent hit send automatically, ever.
Right. Even a minor hallucinate, like sending an internal mock-up to an external client, is a disaster.
It is a massive liability. You let the agent do the heavy lifting. It finds the file, it takes the screenshot, and it writes the draft. But human eyes must review it. You always keep the final send button in your own control.
What kind of apps specifically require this screen control fallback?
It's mostly software without those public APIs. Think about local offline tools like Obsidian, or certain audio apps like Granola,
Okay.
or custom proprietary web forms your company uses internally. Basically anything that traps data behind a visual-only interface.
Basically, any closed ecosystem that doesn't play nicely with direct integrations.
Right. Use the visual ghost to bridge those specific stubborn gaps.
Beat. Okay, so it can click and it can type. But a fast clicker is useless if it has no idea what your brand sounds like.
Exactly.
If it starts from zero every time, it doesn't really know you. How do we give this teammate a persistent memory?
We use something called projects. This is use case 3. It marks the transition from a generic AI tool to a deeply personalized system.
And the guide suggests keeping it to 7 or 8 projects maximum. Categories like business, content, or client work. Having too many silos create a fragmented, confusing system.
Yeah, less is more here. A brilliant trick is letting the AI define those boundaries for you. You prompt Claude to review your daily workflows and suggest the best project buckets.
Oh, that's smart.
It often identifies structural patterns in your work that you completely overlook.
Let's dig into the content creation workflow. The guide details a 5-step process for a LinkedIn project. Step 1 is creating the container and providing instructions.
Right.
You outline your goals, you demand short sentences, you tell it to challenge bad ideas.
And step 2 is where the actual anchoring happens. You don't just type out a description of your tone, you download your entire historical data archive from LinkedIn. You upload that raw CSV file directly into the project's memory bank.
I'm skeptical. Most AI writing sounds like corporate jargon. Does uploading old posts really strip out that robotic tone?
It works remarkably well. Step 3 forces the AI to study you mathematically. You prompt it to analyze the archive data. It counts your syllable frequency.
Wow.
It maps how often you use conversational transitions. It studies your unique cadence.
So is reverse engineering your syntax?
Yes. From that hard data, it generates 10 specific rules defining your personal style. It saves those rules permanently in the project. Then, in step 4, you upload a hook library.
That is just a text document of opening lines, things that have historically grabbed attention in your specific niche.
Correct. You feed it proven structural winners.
Why is uploading the archive better than just describing my style?
Because humans are notoriously bad at self-reporting their habits. You might tell the AI you write very formally, but your actual data shows you start sentences with conversational fillers constantly.
That makes sense.
The raw data forces the AI to mimic reality, not your idealized self-image.
Real examples act like guardrails against that generic AI voice.
They anchor the output to your actual verified linguistic fingerprint.
Okay, we're going to take a very brief pause here. When we come back, we're pointing this personalized system directly at the morning inbox. Stay tuned.
See you in a minute.
And we're back. So now that Cowork actually sounds like you, let's point it at a universal pain point.
Yeah.
The dread of the morning inbox. Let's look at use case 4.
The 8.0 a.m. email triage. This is purely about reclaiming your mental bandwidth before the day even begins.
We've all felt that sinking feeling. You open your laptop, and there are 40 unread threads demanding your attention. It completely derails your morning.
It's the worst.
To fix this, you set up the Gmail connector inside your business project, and you utilize the schedule command. /schedule.
Yeah, this command turns Cowork from a passive tool into an active agent. You assign task 1 to run at 9:00 a.m. and 5:00 p.m. You instruct it to read all unread emails from the past day.
And if an email needs a reply, draft it. Maintain that professional tone we just built. And again, do not hit send, just save the drafts.
Right, you preserve the safety rule. But task 2 is the absolute game changer here, the morning brief.
You tell Cowork to wake up before you do. At 7:30 a.m., it scans the chaos. It pulls the 3 most urgent emails. It checks your Google Calendar for conflicts. It flags any threads where you missed a 48-hour follow-up window. It grabs one relevant piece of industry news.
And you enforce a strict limit, Keep it under 300 words.
Yeah.
It digests the overwhelming noise into a single, calm, readable summary.
2 sec silence. Whoa. Imagine waking up and a 300-word brief just eliminated 20 minutes of aimless inbox scrolling.
Your defensive posture is just gone. You sip your coffee, you read a single page, and you immediately know your priorities.
But there is a massive warning in the source material about processing limits.
Compute is not an infinite resource. Scheduled tasks burn through your usage quota quickly. Some users try to run these syncs every 15 minutes.
Which is a terrible idea.
Very terrible.
We need to define this constraint. The system uses tokens to measure compute. A token is basically a tiny chunk of a word.
Precisely. When the agent wakes up, it has to load your entire project memory. The style rules, the past emails, the calendar context. Loading all those thousands of tokens costs significant computing power.
Running it constantly drains your allocation before lunch.
2 or 3 deliberate runs per day is the absolute sweet spot.
Is the goal here to completely remove humans from email?
Not at all. The goal is to eliminate the fatigue of context switching. You still make the hard strategic choices. You still approve the nuanced client reply. The AI handles the reading, the sorting, and the initial drafting.
So we automate the friction, but we keep the final sign-off.
You are the editor-in-chief. The agent is just your tireless research staff.
Beat. That brings us to the big picture. Use case 5. Saving time on emails is fantastic, but the ultimate evolution here is combining siloed data to make better business decisions.
And many people skip this step because it sounds too technical. But this is the highest leverage activity Cowork offers.
Think about how scattered our information is.
Yeah.
Revenue data lives in Stripe or Paddle. Community engagement sits in School or Kajabi.
Yeah.
Ad performance is trapped in Meta. Website traffic is over in Google Analytics.
Pulling a unified weekly report usually means opening 5 different browser tabs. You copy numbers into a spreadsheet, you try to eyeball a trend. It is deeply tedious, error-prone work.
But with this system, you connect those tools directly via MCPs. And if a tool lacks that backdoor integration, you simply export a CSV spreadsheet.
Right.
You drop that file directly into the Cowork folder.
And once the data is accessible, you issue one comprehensive prompt. Analyze the last 7 days, build a clean weekly report, combine revenue, new members, top traffic sources, and ad spend. Highlight one key insight I need to act on.
It's like stacking Lego blocks of data. Individually, they are just numbers, but combined, they build a map of your entire business.
The synthesis is where the magic happens. It might notice that a massive spike in Meta ad spend didn't correlate with any new Kajabi signups. It flags that specific inefficiency for you immediately.
The guide pushes this even further. It outlines an advanced move where you ask Cowork to build an interactive dashboard.
Oh, this is so cool. You literally prompt it to generate an interactive HTML file visualizing your 6-month revenue trends. You ask for bar charts, trend lines, and color-coded slow months.
Can a non-technical person really generate an interactive HTML dashboard?
Yes. Cowork deeply understands code syntax. It writes the HTML and JavaScript for you in the background. It packages that code into a single, clean file and drops it on your desktop.
Wow.
You just double-click it, and it opens a beautiful interactive dashboard right in your web browser.
You just describe it in plain English, and it handles the coding.
It serves as your personal data analyst and your front-end developer simultaneously.
Neat. To actually achieve this without pulling your hair out, the setup order is critical. The guide is very prescriptive here. We cannot just rush this.
Order dictates success. A lot of people fail because they jump around. Step 1 is turning on the core settings, enabling computer use and unhiding apps.
Right.
Step 2 is connecting the plumbing. Get your MCPs for Gmail and Notion authorized.
And step 3 is creating your primary projects. Keep it under 8 total.
Exactly. Step 4 is loading the context. And if you skip step 4, the whole system breaks. If you don't feed it your brand guidelines and historical data, it acts like a stranger. The output will be incredibly generic.
Step 5. You ask Claude to extract the operating rules from that context. Step 6 is when you finally schedule your daily tasks, like the morning brief.
Notice how late scheduling comes in the process. You have to build the brain before you give it a schedule.
And finally, step 7 is a weekly review to refine the prompts.
It requires a couple of hours of intentional setup, but the compound interest on that time investment is staggering over a month.
Beat. So what does this all mean? We have journeyed through a fundamental shift today. From direct API connectors to the ghost-in-the-machine screen control.
Yeah.
We gave the system a customized memory, we tamed the dread of the morning inbox, and we built unified business dashboards from raw data.
The core takeaway is shifting your mindset. You have to stop treating AI as an oracle. You ask trivia questions. You need to start treating it as an operational system that manages your digital life.
It is about reclaiming your cognitive load, the administrative busy work strings. The deep, strategic thinking gets more oxygen.
If you are listening right now, don't try to build all 5 use cases today. Just pick the morning brief, set it up this week. Feel what it is like to wake up without that heavy inbox dread.
2-sec silence. It leaves us with something pretty profound to chew on. If agents like Cowork can eventually handle all the administrative friction of our jobs, what happens to our careers when our primary value is no longer directing the work, but directing the system?
That is the defining economic question of the next decade.
It really is. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Go set up that morning brief, and we will see you next time.